Hey kids, let's talk about the good old days growing up in Idaho. A few days ago I was feeling nostalgic about my hometown in Salmon, Idaho, and so I penned a blog post and titled it, "The Art of Life, Take Me Back to Salmon." Sometimes it's nice to go back to our hometowns and remember all the things that happened. Remember the people that we knew, the kids we went to school with, the people that influenced our life in one way or another. And I suppose that's what I think of when I have those nostalgic moments. I think of my homestead. In my case, growing up on the Prow Creek drainage. We were the first house on Prow Creek. Us and the Ney family, Jerry Ney, Shirley Ney. Those were great times. We moved out to that place when I was 11 or 12 in about the mid-1970s. It was transforming, being able to roam the hillside, the mountains, go up the canyon. My brother and I went up there a lot, up the Prow Creek Canyon, and played. We played in the beaver ponds. We fished. We camped up there. We had a lot of memories. Created a lot of memories. And so I suppose that's what I feel when I have those nostalgic moments. I think of salmon and growing up and all the things that I did. And here's another interesting thing. In my case, I spent the first 18 years of my life in Idaho, the first 5 in Boise where I was born, and then we moved to Salmon. And I lived there until I was 18, with a short interlude when we moved to Provo, Utah, so my dad could finish his college degree, or actually he got a master's degree, and then we moved back to Salmon. So altogether, I spent 17 years in Idaho, and I still claim that state, Salmon, specifically, as my hometown and home state. And so it's interesting. I've lived outside of Idaho for, close to 40 years. And so it's kind of interesting how we view the area we grew up as the place where we call home. And I think we all do that. I started writing a lot when I was young, living out there on the Prow Creek drainage. I wrote stories. Some of them were for school and some of them were just for myself, so I could remember things that had happened or things that I was thinking about. And some of them were fictional stories. I enjoyed writing. As a writer, I think in terms of words, phrases, and scripts. I love dialogue, the sharing of words between people. A lot can be learned from what is said or not said. I've always argued that a well-written scene is better than any photo. Arguably, however, a well-written scene and an accompanying photo will always hit a home run in the literary sense. I've done a lot of writing over the years. My first story was a 4-page third-person narrative about an Indian boy named Two Wolves. I wrote it in Mrs. Hoffman's 4th grade class for a journaling assignment. The story, in my mind, was worthy of awards. None came, only recess. But my foray into storytelling had begun, and I couldn't stop the flow of ideas and words. I suppose, like most writers, I carry 4 or 5, sometimes more, plot lines around in my mind. As often as possible, I scribble a few notes about the plot so I can easily recall them later. Most of these plots involve protagonists doing heroic things. Saving people, looking out for the underdogs, winning the hearts of their true loves. Some are even revenge stories where the good guys win, either with fists or with wit or both. But sometimes the plots involve people similar to the way I existentially view myself. Just ordinary people doing ordinary things, but with passion. What I call the art of life. These simple but profound plots include basking in sunsets, walking beaches, story times with kids, contemplating the future, exploring abandoned places, and being in love, real, true love. I also love nostalgia. I like all things old. Old mines, old cabins, old houses sitting on a hill, old gnarly trees, old people with a story to tell. I love sitting around telling stories about the good old days. Of course, the good old days are different for everyone, but I think every person thinks their version of those days are the greatest in some way. I grew up in the 1960s and 70s. I left home in 1982 after graduating from high school and never looked back, only in memories. And those memories are special. About 20 years ago, I was visiting my hometown, Salmon, Idaho. It was a family outing with my kids. We jumped off the bridge into the river after rafting and tubing our favorite section from the Chute Bridge to Island Park. Like every visit, my kids tried their best to talk me into moving the family to Salmon. I guess they wanted what I had growing up. It's really what every kid deserves. During that visit, I had some words pop into my mind. After a few minutes of playing with and arranging those words, I came up with this simple 5-stanza poem about the Salmon River. It speaks to what I was feeling at that moment, and perhaps since. Perhaps we will all eventually return to our roots and reclaim in some intrinsic way what was once ours. This is the poem I wrote 20 years ago. It's called Mother River. Peering out from my vantage on the shore, the cool breeze cradled my nostalgic soul. Inner weeping for buried memories of before resulted in remembrance of my youthful goals. That old meandering, rolling, raging flow, traveling onward, flowing onward to the sea, cloaked at times midst the fog's heavy glow, keeps rhythm, a cadence to nature's simplicity. Fertile banks guide those anxious currents, adorned lush in spring, barren in fall. She's mothered her hungry brood with opulence, nurturing nature's balance, her greatest call. 'Twas my river, my home. I dwelt here long ago. Sharing claim with others, our sentiments the same, we tread her banks as children, running to and fro, all basked in her beauty and wild torrents of fame. Gone are those moments of mirth and swank regaling, of each new day, loving life near my river's banks. But the memories, the gist of nostalgia's lonely hailing, cause my soul to weep with joy and give God thanks. Thanks for listening. Growing up in Idaho, the good old days.